Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this, a Thursday, August 28th, 2025. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host. Well, let me tell you a bit about my co-host, shall I? Do you know, folks, today is National Bow Tie Day? And my co-host says, if you have a man in your life who you hate, buy him a bow tie for Christmas. She is the she-devil with a sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is the sensational Sheila Gunn Reid. How you doing there, Sheila?
David, it's also National Power Rangers Day, so I'm surprised you didn't take that opportunity to dress as a Power Ranger or as one of those big, oversized things that they would fight, like the Godzilla or the robot or whatever. It's also National Burger Day, which would have been a good choice. But no, you went with the weird one, as always. I should tell everybody what we're doing around here because it's a very busy day. And I added some things to the schedule after it was already selected. So let's get to that. But it is nice to have the band back together, by the way, David. I haven't co-hosted with you in quite some time. And I feel as though people miss our chemistry. Now, I have chemistry with all of our co-hosts in different ways. But you and I, we kick it old school. You know, we were really the first co-hosts of the live stream.
Well, as you once quoted in the morning meeting, reunited, and it feels so good as Peaches and
I regret ever saying that.
I know. That's why I keep bringing it up. But you know, that's another day. I think it's National Thoughtfulness Day today. You might have it on your list because I was originally going to go around that because you know, I always think about you, Sheila Gunn Reid, except when Annalise sends in a super chat and when I'm with Lady Menzoid, I don't want to get her jealous. But other than that, I'm always thinking about you.
Annalise is going to send in a chat today. I just know it. And she's going to make it weird. But we appreciate her. I just don't understand her taste in men. I'll tell everybody what we're doing here. This is the Rebel Roundup. It's our daily news and opinion live stream. So it is, as I say, sometimes very painfully live. But we also encourage you to have your say. You're not just listening to us talk. You can talk to us. So if you're watching us on Rumble, there's a function there called a Rumble Rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're obligating ourselves to read it on air. And some people like to take advantage of that and make me say embarrassing and overly kind things to David Menzies. If it's under that, we'll do our best to get to it, time permitting. But sometimes we get shooed out of the studio because we only have one studio. Look, we're not CBC. If you are watching us on YouTube, their paid chat over there is called a super chat. Same rules apply, but there's an additional way that you can contribute to us, and that is through their paid comment. It's called a super thanks. And I know you guys send those because I go back and look. So I appreciate you for choosing us when there are a lot of places that you could throw your support behind. And of course, you have less money than ever in your pocket thanks to Carney's inflation, escalating taxes, housing crunch, all those things. So we just appreciate you choosing us when you have plenty of choices out there in the world, and then some networks that you don't choose to support, but the government makes you do it anyway. So that's it. David, should we get into this exclusive from the Elevate podcast?
100%. It's all about, and we had the Elevate podcast host on our round table last Friday, so this is very apropos. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre is explaining why the Conservative Party supports Castle Law. This is called in hockey, Sheila, because I know Prime Minister Carney loves using hockey metaphors, you know, elbows up, sometimes you're going to go into power play.
Speaking of which, our daily cringe today is a complete own goal.
Oh, really?
By the left, but we'll get to that.
And I know Carney is a goaltender, so I'll use a hockey analogy. Time to pull the goalie, I should think. Anyway, my hockey analogy for what Pierre Poilievre is about to say is a tip-in. It's like scoring into an empty net. I say this because what Poilievre is going to say is supported by 99.99% of the people based on our videos in the comment section of people weighing in about Jeremy McDonald, the victim in the Lindsay home invasion, being charged with aggravated assault and assault with a weapon. I would argue, Sheila, the 0.01% that doesn't agree, well, those are liberals living in gated communities with security guards. So they're not living the Canadian reality. But enough about me. Let us hear what Mr. Poilievre has to say on the common sense file.
One small thing I wanted to sneak in here was obviously this thing that happened in Lindsay, Ontario, with the break-in that led to the man who protected himself getting charged. Right. Like, what are you came out and said pretty decisively, saying, "Hey, you need to be able to protect yourself, you need to protect your family." What's taking center stage in the country's conversation right now is castle law. Mm-hmm. When you hear that, I've never heard that in the Canadian zeitgeist ever until now. What is your take on this?
You're not listening.
Well, first, my take is that it just demonstrates the chaos in our streets after 10 years of liberal catch and release laws. I never heard anybody in all of my years in politics asking for the right to defend themselves when conservatives were in power, because the law actually defended people. But now people know that the worst offenders are being released onto our streets again and again and again and again. There's no consequences. And necessarily people feel like defending themselves. So there are self-defense provisions in the criminal code. I think it's section 34, 36. The problem is they don't specify anything about your residence, your dwelling. So what they do is they give a very complicated multi-factor test to judges that says, take this into account and this and this and this and this to determine if the self-defense was justified and proportionate, etc. Now, when you're under attack in your home, you don't have the time to calculate, these 7 different tests. You've got a 3-year-old child who's potentially going to be harmed. You've got a masked, potentially armed person in your home. You do whatever the hell it takes to stop him, including taking lethal action, killing him. But you don't have the ability to sit back and run all these calculations through your brain. No one would. So the reason why people are talking about a castle law is the idea that when the confrontation happens in someone's home with an intruder, then a lot of these tests go out the window. And you need to be able to do whatever you think is necessary to save your family. And so our caucus is going to be talking over the next several weeks about changes that the criminal code may need to clarify the absolute right of Canadians to defend themselves, including by taking very aggressive and even lethal action against someone who's broken into their house.
Sheila, 2 things. One is Mr. Poilievre hits the hammer on the nail when he talks about in the wee hours of the morning when an invader, and to look at the Lindsay case, armed with a lethal weapon, a crossbow that can take a moose down, breaks into your home, and you and your loved ones are in that home, you are not doing the calculus. No one, Sheila, in the heat of the moment is going, let me think now. I need to respond with proportionate force, or maybe the police tomorrow will charge me for defending myself. No, the reality is adrenaline is coursing through your veins. You are springing into Papa Bear or Mama Bear mode, and you are doing everything necessary, including lethal force, to save your skin and to save your loved ones. My second point, and I want to hear what you have to say, throughout this whole debate, since more than a week ago when we began covering the Lindsay matter, Sheila, I have yet to see anyone in law enforcement, the judiciary, in politics, define excessive force or unnecessary force. What is the definition? In the case of Mike Breen breaking into Mr. McDonald's abode in the wee hours of the morning when nothing good ever happens, he had a crossbow. So what was what was McDonald supposed to do? Open hand slap? a fist, maybe go into the kitchen utensils and hit him with a wooden spoon. This is insane. I just want to know what the rules are, and if Mr. Poilievre can get into office and tighten those rules, because there's no appetite for the hug-a-thug liberals to do so, then good on him.
Yeah, and it varies by province, right? Like, this guy would never be charged with anything in Alberta.
Yep.
He'd shoot somebody dead if they break into your house in Alberta. It happened in Red Deer.
Correct.
I can't imagine having to presume the benevolence of the man who is breaking into my house in the wee hours of the night. Oh, he's only here to take my TV, or I should leave my keys by the door. He's not here to take my life or do something even worse.
But how do you know that, Sheila?
That's exactly my point. You can't know it.
Yeah.
Especially when these people are so often fueled by drugs.
Yeah.
They're in some sort of drug mania, and you think, okay, well, I have to get out the whiteboard and do some physics on the whiteboard to figure out what measure of force that I'm supposed to use against this guy. I just want to tell you how outrageous it has become with the crime outbreak in this country, and now the argument around self-defense. By the way, if you haven't heard Canadians talk about Castle Law, then you are in a different part of the internet than I am, because this is something that rural Canadians have been talking about forever, because we are a half an hour away from any sort of police responding. A lot can happen to us in a half an hour, and rural Canadians have been talking about this for a very, very, very long time. So I believe that's called urban privilege.
Actually, Sheila, let me challenge you with that. In 2011 to 2012, right here in Hogtown, this was a white-hot issue. There were two notable cases. The shopkeeper for the Lucky Moose in Chinatown being charged with police because he was detaining a habitual shoplifter. This guy would come in and rob him blind. And so it was either take a stand or go out of business. And of course, and I have a commentary coming up, a look back in the Wayback Machine when I was with Sun News Network. Naveed Poilievre, a restaurateur who fended off a trespasser. Again, Mr. Poilievre was having his restaurant on Bloor Street broken into habitually. He caught a guy about to do so. What did he use as a weapon, folks? Spices. He threw spices at the trespasser. And spoiler alert, because in Lindsay, the cops say, well, charges don't mean convictions. Guess what? With Mr. Poilievre, he was convicted. He was indeed convicted of assault for that. And also, there's his legal bills. And by the way, if you go to Bloor Street near Euclid Avenue, guess what, Sheila? Today, Mr. Poilievre's restaurant is no more.
Yeah, of course. The process is the punishment.
Yep.
I just wanted to point out just how far this conversation has gone into, I think, liberal land. Even liberals are sort of agreeing with this. Let me point out that Gary Mason in the Globe and Mail, Gary Mason, okay, the guy who said snowbirds should stay away from America to combat Trump's tariffs, while he was in Palm Springs, has come out on the side of Castle Law. He wrote an op-ed in the Globe and Mail saying, break into my home at your own risk. Now, in fairness, there is Castle Doctrine in California where he is. So it's easy for him to say from the United States in the land of the Second Amendment, right?
Yeah.
This is where we've gone on this, that Gary Mason, liberal crazy person, Gary Mason, who says snowbirds don't go to the United States. And then on the thing on CBC Power and Politics, it said there you go, Palm Springs, California. It's so crazy. But yeah, he's saying Canadians should have a right to defend themselves. And again, I point out, easy to say when you're in the United States where they have the Second Amendment.
Oh, 100%. But Sheila, I missed that. He's channeling Rod Phillips. Remember during COVID, the fireside chats from Ajax during the wintertime when he was sunning his ricotta cheese fat ass on an exclusive Caribbean beach, telling everybody. And I guess he had to do the right thing eventually and step down. He was a minister with under the Doug Ford administration. But, you know,
doing the old Sky Palace. They're doing the Sky Palace, right?
Oh, yes.
You know, when we're all banned from getting together and they're having a whiskey party, Jason Kenney and the gang up in Sky Palace.
Or sneaky Patrick Brown hiring snitches to tell on children that were using recreation facilities, but sneaking into a hockey arena to play hockey with his Barry buddies. But, you know, another important point, and shall I go back to this? And, you know, I think he is an anomaly on the Liberal left because I haven't seen a deluge of Liberals speaking out about this.
No, Andrew Coyne has actually said the opposite.
Exactly. You know, who would soil his pants at 3:20 in the morning if a guy with a cross.
I was thinking, like, Andrew Coyne would like to, like, he would, the obvious conclusion is he wants me to engage in hand-to-hand combat with an intruder into my house. Well, spoiler alert, I'm not. Don't break into my house if you don't want a broadhead in you somewhere. But Andrew Coyne is somebody who couldn't engage in hand-to-hand combat with me, I don't think.
But Sheila, I'll give you an even worse example. I remember I was talking about Mr. Poilievre, the Lucky Moose. Back when I was with Sun News, I was on a frequent panelist on The Arena, hosted by Michael Corn, and one of the frequent guests was Marianne Mead Ward.
Right.
And I made the point then, as I make it now, in the animal kingdom, and it works in the human kingdom too, you have an option, fight or flight. When you are in your house, you have crossed the finish line. There is nowhere to run to.
Retreat to. Yeah, exactly. You're there.
You have to fight. Here is what Marianne Mead said in rebuttal. That's not true. You could gather up your kids, go out the back door, hop the fence, and keep on running. And just to show you how lunatic Canada is, she would go on to become the mayor of Burlington, Ontario, and win re-election twice, I believe. Sheila, this is insanity, and this is being spewed by people that have no idea what it's like in the heat of the moment during a home invasion.
Well, it's because they live in gated communities, and they don't have anybody they love enough to defend. Like, tell me you don't have anybody in your life that you love enough to defend without telling me that for a fact. That's what when I see stuff like Andrew Coyne saying those things, I'm like, oh, you don't have anybody you love more than yourself, clearly.
Oh, not only that, Sheila, gated communities. If it ain't a gated community, and folks, I think this video will go up.
Yeah, struggle, bro. You're allowed to defend yourself with reasonable force. You're not allowed to beat the guy to death. Well, if that means that he doesn't get up and attack me or my children, then yes, I will do that.
100%. Now, last week, Sheila, and he was talking about it yesterday as well, Premier Doug Ford, saying the system, I assume he means the justice system, is broken. You are right, Mr. Ford. And he went on to have sympathy for Mr. McDonald. He was saying this is outrageous. Wait a minute. I know this from yesterday because my cameraman Maritzu and I went out to West End, Toronto, to Doug Ford's house. Get a load of this, Sheila. 2 police cruisers, count them, 2 police cruisers with 2 officers with lethal force 24/7 in the driveway. And listen, I don't want anything bad.
I don't begrudge him that.
I don't.
But I don't want the state to have the monopoly on lethal force. That's all.
You know, and by the way, that's at taxpayer expense. Sheila, if I had Lotto Max FU money and I was filthy rich, I could go to the police and say, I want paid off-duty police officers and police cruisers, which you can hire. The permit is not a slam dunk. They can deny it. They don't even have to give a reason to deny it. So option B is a security guard. Guess what? They can't carry guns. They can't even carry pepper spray. So I think it's a little rich for Doug Ford to empathize with the common man and the common woman when he'll never get his hands dirty defending his life.
Well, and I don't even begrudge him his security. And I don't disagree with his statement. My problem is he's the guy in charge.
Exactly. So
Right, there's
you know
a reason
what,
why
Dougie?
this would never see a charge in Alberta, and it's because of political will. So if he wants things to change, he has the ability to do it. Those are his prosecutors.
Yeah.
Those are his cops. And by the way, he's got the ear of the prime minister, I think, more than anybody. So
Oh, yeah.
if anybody can get this done and changed for the better, it's him, but he's not.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
maybe
my
at
problem.
at their next candlelight dinner in the Muskoka Cottage, you know, Ford can make mention of this to Carney. But, you know, and by the way, I think I saw super producer Olivia, she might have that clip of Ford ranting about this.
We watched it yesterday.
Oh,
we
did
watched
you?
it yesterday. Yeah, we covered that
Okay,
yesterday.
but to me, Sheila, those tears are of the crocodilian variety because he's not in the same boat. And had he come out of his house, this was unbelievable, folks. We went there. There was an entourage of black Chevy Suburban SUVs. That means Ford was about to get on the road to go somewhere. Do you know, Sheila, we waited 2 hours for him to come out. And I know he was going to depart any minute upon our arrival. He didn't even want to hear our questions. We were standing on the street. I was going to ask him some of the questions that you just brought up. Can you call off your prosecutors on Mr. McDonald? Can you tell your prosecutors to stop downgrading charges against real criminals that the police arrest? So in other words, a de rigueur thing right now is robbery gets downgraded to theft. And that is all politically driven, Sheila, for the government to say, you see, crime's going down. No, it's just like the nonsense you see in Washington, D.C., where Trump got the National Guard to come in because they said, look at the stats, crime's going down. Excuse me, you're not counting the stats, which include murder carried out by those under 18, you know? Yeah. So the stats are actually going up. It's funny, Sheila, I believe the murder rate in Washington was averaging 4 a week. And since the National Guard has come in, well, the number rhymes with hero, if you catch my drift. I'm just saying, Sheila, I'm so tired of the hypocrisy and the one law for thee and the one law for me, business as usual, way of doing business in this country. And one last thing, folks, Sheila is not talking in terms of conjecture about how it's different in Alberta. That Red Deer case goes back 4 years ago, and the situation was entirely different. The man in the Red Deer case was not at the type of risk Jeremy McDonald was. He arrived home to notice it was broken into. The intruder was asleep, if you can imagine, in the home. The man called the police, and then he went to get his shotgun, which had a shell in it. He woke him up and said, you stay right here. Police are on the way. Originally, the intruder agreed. Then he didn't. He lunged at the man. A scuffle ensued. He shot him dead. The Red Deer RCMP didn't even press charges. They didn't even press charges.
Nope.
So that meant this guy, it wasn't going to be like Mr. McDonald, where the process is the penalty. Hey, you're found not guilty. By the way, here's your bill for legal fees. Yeah, too bad it's in 6 figures and it's going to bankrupt you, but you're the winner.
Yeah, in the new country, we'll throw a parade for people who shoot bad guys breaking into their homes like they do in Texas. I'm going to take things out of order a little bit, and we got to move along because we spent 25 minutes on one clip from the Elevate podcast. We'll talk about how terrible it is in Toronto, which is a good incentive for me to dream about the new country. The Peel Regional Police, this is their press release. Arrests made, additional suspects sought in attempted kidnapping. You know, I guess, when you open it up, it says on June 24th, 2025, this is 2 months later, 2 young women were walking near Britannia Road West and Queen Street South when 3 masked suspects approached and tried to lure them in a light-colored Audi SUV. Well, that's very, someone will identify you pretty quick there. The suspects chased and attempted to grab the victims, with reports that one may have had a gun and another a knife. A passerby intervened and the suspects fled westbound. Here we go. You know what? I'm actually surprised they released pictures of these people because usually they don't. On October 18th, following a thorough investigation, 26-year-old Waleed Khan of Etobicoke was arrested and charged with 33 offenses, 33, related to kidnapping, firearms, auto theft, and more. A search of his residence also led to the seizure of 2 loaded prohibited firearms, an AR-style rifle. I always wonder what they mean by AR-style. Cool-looking rifle capable of automatic. Oh, it's an automatic weapon, so completely beyond this guy obviously not being licensed to have it. It's automatic, which has been outlawed in Canada for decades and decades. A pistol, both equipped with prohibited high-capacity magazines, along with 110 rounds of ammunition. Remember, duck hunters are the problem. He was already on probation for prior violent offenses, prohibited from possessing firearms, has since been released.
Oh, come on.
With an ankle monitor. Can you believe that? And look at all of his dirtbag friends there, the other suspects.
And Sheila, I've spoken to probation officers. You can remove those devices. Happens frequently. Never gets reported.
You know, this is Toronto for you. And then it keeps going. Toronto police named 4 suspects wanted in a series of distraction thefts targeting the elderly. Between October 9th, 2024 and February 28th, 2025, throughout the Toronto area, Sylvia Piperia, 46, Sylviu Florian, 37, Clementa Paraschev, 33, and Konstantin Paraschev, 35, are all wanted on various theft-related charges, including use of credit card obtained by offense and conspiracy to commit an indictable offense, among others. Police say there's one more suspect outstanding who has medium build, dark-colored hair.
Sheila, sorry to interrupt. Stay on that. This is a very important point that I've noticed.
Yeah,
police say one more suspect is outstanding. They describe as 35 to 50, between 5 feet 8 inches and 5 feet 10 inches, with a medium build, dark-colored hair, and a beard. What relevant detail is missing from that?
Race.
Correct. Skin color.
Yeah. You know, though I think this is one of those traveler scams that Lincoln has been on to, just based on the Eastern European, Romanian sounding last names that nobody seems to care about. But this, you know, when you, like, crime is out of control. Doug Ford is doing absolutely nothing. Saskatchewan and Alberta created 2 like separate police forces to deal with crime. What is Doug Ford doing?
No, nothing. But Sheila, I'm obsessed with, this is a new trend I've noticed, and I'm going to dig up some other examples. How can you say a suspect description, that description they gave, maybe there's 1 million people in Ontario that fit into that description, but you know what? You give the skin color, it reduces the number by maybe 90%. So this is irresponsible reporting if the media is keeping it out. And if the police are self-censoring themselves, they're being irresponsible. And again, not conjecture, folks. The Kawartha Lakes Police Service, when they issued their original press release going back to August 18th, the name of the assailant was not given. Why? He's 41. He's not a young offender. And to add a cherry to this sordid Sunday, he was already wanted by police. You should be publishing this information instead of withholding it. Sheila, why the lack of transparency given this career criminal drug addict?
Is that a real question, David?
I don't know. I can't connect the dots.
They do it all the time. We're just supposed to guess. And I guess when they don't tell us, then we just fill in the blanks.
We had to find it out. We broke the story. And you know what, folks? They're coming around to their senses. But for several days, the mainstream media kept reporting the intruder with a weapon, not saying that the intruder was Mike Breen, not saying the weapon was a crossbow. Now they're changing their tune. I guess they see they can't suppress the information thanks to the internet.
Right. Because if you don't have all the information, then it just sounds like a scuffle and somebody overreacted. And that's not at all what happened, because this is a country that doesn't believe that Canadians have a right to defend their own lives in their own homes. That's what the law says. Let's hit an ad break and we'll come back and talk about immigration and Doug Ford being, as Dean Skorako calls him on X, Fat Trudeau. It's an ad break.
Gun bans make great distractions.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same
We
rhetoric.
will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us, Canada's National Firearms Association, in defense of freedom.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again. Okay. Oh, and by the way, Sheila, before we get to immigration, I think you are prescient in your remarks at the top of the show. I do believe we have a super chat from a very special person, and maybe you're self-censoring yourself to read it, but you have to read it.
Oh, I saw it come in. I saw it come in. I was like, I'm going to rag the puck, to use the hockey term, to the very end.
Read it!
I will. It's from Annalisa S. She sends us $13.99 because she's always generous. So I don't do this for cheap. I don't embarrass myself. I do self-flagellation for cheap. She says, you are right, Sheila. I can't watch the show today. Oh, my sweet Menzies, you look very sexy today. Yummy, yummy. Sending all of my love to you, to all of you at Rebel News.
I swear, Annalise, you are so sweet yourself, and if ever I'm in your neck of the woods, let me buy you lunch. You've been so generous to us. It's the least I can do. And
I'm convinced that she's your burner account on YouTube.
Yeah, don't start a conspiracy theory, Sheila. This is some minion I have putting out these donations. No, I have never met Annalise. I'm sure she's a lovely lady.
Exactly. I've never seen you and Annalise in the same room, okay?
Oh, is this some kind of Clark Kent Superman analogy you're making?
Yeah. Yeah, she's just you with goggles. Okay, let's get into immigration. In a shock to no one, we've got this from True North. Finance Canada warned of record population surge due to immigration. A Finance Canada briefing note warned last year that Canada was undergoing unprecedented population growth driven by temporary residents. And yet, did they dial her back? No. And they mentioned in the briefing note serious consequences for housing, wages, and economic productivity. But the Liberals didn't dial her back. It was full speed ahead. It was a document from July 2024. So in the dark days of last summer, when there's a lot of pressure on the Liberals and things were falling apart, that said that the federal government had set a target of reducing the share of temporary residents to 5% of the population within 3 years. Instead, the proportion has since climbed above 7%, nearly double the level in 2019. And you can see that everywhere.
So, Sheila, we have an ongoing campaign, Fix Our Cities. Unfortunately, you can't go into a city or town anywhere in our Dominion without coming across a homeless encampment, or encampments plural. We flagged one, what's happened to downtown Hamilton. I'm not trying to be mean or funny here. Parts of that city look like a film set for a zombie apocalypse flick. People, homeless, destitute, on drugs, maybe mentally ill, just literally sleeping in the sidewalk. An entire downtown mall shuttered, filled with graffiti. All the little mom and pop shops, all shuttered, all gone. It's heartbreaking. The point I'm trying to get to with immigration is that how do we win the war on poverty, which to me is out of control, when we import the world's impoverished? And I mean, we have so many examples of that. When we're last in Niagara Falls, #1 tourist destination in all of Canada, folks. 16,000 hotel rooms. 2,000 are permanently taken out of commission to house 5,000 migrants. And think of that dichotomy too, Sheila. So you have homeless people, including, tragically, veterans. They're out on the streets. You've got people that have never contributed to the system. They're in 3-star hotels with a view to the falls. What is going on here? And, again, this is a winning plank for Pierre Poilievre, who has been addressing it of late.
Sure. We talked about it yesterday. 1 in 10 homeless shelter beds are actually taken up by illegal migrants and refugees. So at the end of the day, supply and demand applies to everything, right? It applies to housing. It applies to healthcare. It applies to shelter beds. It applies to food. And so bringing in a mass influx of people just naturally drives the prices up for everybody and making certain things unattainable. I think the dream of home ownership for young people in a lot of Canada's major cities is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And we're constantly told that, and by the Liberals especially, we need to bring in a ton of migrants and temporary foreign workers because they will build our country and they'll build our economy. And I think, to me, I think if they're capable of doing that, then they should stay at home and build the economies of their home countries to lift their home countries out of poverty.
100%.
If that's how that works.
And Sheila, Mr. Poilievre noted, you're bringing in migrants into cities and towns that already have high unemployment. I'll give you an example. Windsor, Ontario, where my sons live. And by the way, I love Windsor. I can't put my finger on it. I think maybe it's from its blue-collar roots that you go to a restaurant, you go to a shop. I have never once experienced bad customer service in Windsor. I love the people there. I truly do. But Windsor right now, Sheila, 11.2% unemployment. I understand that's the highest rate since they began taking surveys on this. And what do you see? You see, again, migrant hotels in Windsor. You see a huge homeless population. We reported, and this is where, the infrastructure for law-abiding, tax-paying citizens gets eradicated. Behind closed doors, Windsor City Council, in its infinite wisdom, decided it was going to permanently shut down Windsor Water World. That includes filling the pool at a cost of millions of dollars to create more space for those who do not have homes. This is insanity, Sheila.
Right. Well, and when you look at the federal government's labor market impact assessment page, it's all entry-level jobs. We're constantly told by the Liberals and the left, Sheila, we don't have enough engineers, we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough nurses. And all you have to do is look at that page and see that they're hiring hotel workers and they're hiring food service workers and technicians down at the local oil change shop. That really irritates me. I don't remember the last time I saw a Canadian 16-year-old working at the Mr. Lube. I have no idea. I just don't know when the shift happened. But we've got record high youth unemployment, and we are importing a slave underclass to do these jobs and simultaneously drive down the wages of everybody else. This sort of mass importation of temporary foreign workers only works in places like Dubai. It doesn't work where there's no social safety system and everybody else is super wealthy anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that's not how it is in Canada. We can't do this here. It's not structured for it to work here.
And Sheila, if I may, it used to be in the great summertime, a rite of passage when you were old enough was the summer job. And I can tell you, back in early June, the National Post had an incredibly depressing feature, and I believe the headline was "The Death of the Summer Job." Those jobs are gone too.
Right. Yeah. Actually, let's go to stay in Ontario for a bit, and then I'll tell you that we, how much better it is in Alberta because we have a premier who understands this. I remember Doug Ford was like, we got to get these migrants work permits. I'm like, no, you got to send them home. Like, you can't give them work permits. They're taking all the young people's jobs. You have to send them home.
But Sheila, in fairness, the Cheesecake Factory over at Yorkdale, they were having a staffing issue. So, give Doug Ford a break, will you? He's, he has his priorities in line, okay?
We've got this, I think it's a video from Cian Bexty over at the Counter Signal. Absolute massive protest in Brampton. Of course, it's Brampton. Calling on Canada to adjust their immigration policy to allow them to stay in Canada. Are these temporary students?
I've covered those demonstrations.
International students in Brampton.
Yep.
No, get out. You came here for one reason. You went to your fake school. Now get out. Off you go. Get. You know what? As I always say, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Get out.
Not only that, Sheila, my favorite Yiddish word, and by the way, contrary to popular belief, no, I'm not Jewish, but my favorite Yiddish word is chutzpah, sheer unmitigated gall, because I can't see the signs they're brandishing, but I have covered those Brampton protests and the encampment, and the signs were along the lines of, no one is illegal in stolen land. No room for hatred and racism in Canada. And Sheila, I said to one of them...
Why would you want to stay here? Get out.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, this place called Canada, stolen land, full of haters, full of racists. Who in their right mind would want to move here and live here?
Right. Go back to where you came from. By the way, the CBSA, if you're watching, they're doing parades all the time. Just go there, get them, put them on a plane. You know where they are now. They didn't come here for the reason they said they came. So maybe, is that immigration fraud? I don't know. Let them find out. Go get them. They're marching. Just go get them and stick them on a plane.
Yeah, and CBSA and CSIS, for that matter, since we're talking about a tips line here, go to Mississauga at 12 noon on Sunday. You're going to see a gathering there where I guarantee there are people on the wanted list. Just saying, now you do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, go. We know where they are. Just go get them. Go get them. It's not like they're hiding in the shadows.
Yeah.
It's not like it's going to be hard to find them. We've got
Sheila, in the shadows, the crew I'm talking about sets off fireworks, which is illegal
bombs.
Without a permit.
Yeah.
They do drifting with their cars, and they brandish swords. Oh, nothing to see here. I think there's probably a Christian street preacher causing a disturbance somewhere.
Go get them.
Yeah.
In Alberta, we have these panels called the Alberta Next panels, and it's sort of to decide what we do next as a province and how we fight back against the overreach of the federal government. But and we'll get to it later, the lefties have been mobbing the mic, and it has a very strong Matt Walsh takes on lefty lunatics vibes, where they get to the mic and they think they're really going to show Danielle Smith, and then she just smacks him. I'll show you that in a second. Or that's the Daily Cringe today. And I'm here for it. I just watch every successive one of them think that I'm going to be the one that gets her. And then she just drops an anvil on him.
She's too smart for them.
She's so sharp because you can tell she's thought about these issues.
Yes.
And yeah, just hammers, anvils on these people's heads all the time. It's comical, actually. But she's taking, and the other premiers should learn from this. She is going out there every night, just about, in cities and small towns all across the province, and just listening to people. They get to the mic, they ask questions, they talk about their concerns, and she's listening to them. This is what politicians are supposed to do. This is how you get a mandate from the people. You talk to them and they tell you what your mandate should be. You might want to try it sometime, other premiers. But she's at the Alberta Next town hall. And a grandmother says her grandchildren struggle to find jobs because Ottawa is favoring foreign workers. And this is what Smith has to say. Like, look at this panel. And they just sit, half the time they're taking real questions and the rest of the time they're taking abuse from lefty crazy people. But they do it every night. It's a real hard slog, but she's doing it. But let's listen to this.
Love it.
I don't think it's a provincial issue. I think it's a federal issue, but it's really hard for my grandchildren to get jobs right now because federally, I believe the federal government is sponsoring the, not like you, ma'am, but the illegal immigrants, 50% minimum of their wages, and then the businesses pay the other 50%. So my grandchildren don't have a shot at getting a job because they're not financeable because they're Canadian. I don't know how to address that, but it's a frustration for a lot of us.
Right. It's right. I think it's a temporary foreign worker problem. So,
let me start by saying we're looking at those numbers too on youth unemployment, and they're alarming. When we are booming as an economy, our youth unemployment rate is always slightly higher than the general rate, but it gets normally down to 9 to 11%. It's at about 19 or 16% right now, and even higher in certain age groups. Young men, I think, age 24, we're up to a 19% unemployment rate. So it is a real problem. We think that we probably have to create some kind of incentive program to give young people that opportunity to have a first job. And so we've got some policy that we'll be rolling out next week to try to incentivize that. And we are asking employers that it may have been in the past that it was easier to go through the temporary foreign worker process, that having an adult worker who's a little bit more mature, maybe able to work more hours, maybe that's been an advantage to a business, but we are cutting ourselves off. If we don't give that child, that kid, a first job, then they don't get their second job and their third job and their fourth job. So we've got to reset and make sure that our young people are taken care of and see those numbers come down. So I agree with you on that. We're going to try to put some policy in place for that. But to understand why people are connecting those two things is the federal government did change policy that in the past, between 2009 and 2019, so this was pre-COVID and this was under different governments, we were getting in about 0.6% of our population of international arrivals. So that's about 275,000 people a year. Last year it was 1.8 million. So you can see if you're seeing the pressure, you're seeing housing prices going up, you're seeing it hard to get rent, you're seeing it hard for the people in your immediate circle to get jobs. Those are you're seeing crowded schools, you're seeing difficulty getting a doctor. These are why people are connecting those two things. Now, what happened in Alberta? If we were to get back to kind of a more normal level of population growth, it would probably be about 50,000 newcomers a year. Call it 1% of our population. We're now at 5 million, 50,000. In the last 3 years, we've had 450,000 come here. So that is I don't think any of us anticipated there'd be that kind of movement, but none of us knew that all of the limitations would be taken off. The temporary foreign worker program, international students, reunification, asylum seekers. The one area where we know that we need newcomers is in the economic categories, having an employment-driven immigration policy like we used to, and the federal government has shrunk those areas. That's also why we have fewer abilities to nominate people to the provincial nominee program. So that's what we're talking about. So let's get back to a more normal level of immigration, and then let's have Alberta take more of a lead like we see in Quebec so that we can offer jobs to economic migrants in those areas where we know we don't have local workers to be able to fill them. And that should be able to solve the dual problem. That's what we're talking about tonight. It's a little bit more like what Quebec does.
Thank you, Premier.
You know what,
I see
Sheila?
Stephen Buffalo beside her is agreeing with her. He's
amazing.
I just want to point out, not a single thing she said was wrong there.
Yep.
But how smart is she? She knows the numbers right down to the demographics and the minutia, and then the change over time. There's like that's a person who has severely thought about the impact of unconstrained immigration on her province while she simultaneously thinks about everything else. It would be nice to see another premier who had that sort of economic wherewithal.
Well, Sheila, you were obviously paying attention. Because I am someone who is so easily distracted, I was fixated on that ruby red Tim Hortons cup in front of the Premier. Who do you think was behind the counter when Premier Smith picked up her Java? That's what I want to know. But I digress.
Yeah, I would love to see Alberta say, we don't care what the feds are doing. You don't get the employer top up in Alberta. You have to hire an Albertan first. And if you can't, then we'll talk. But I would love to see them say, we don't do labor market assessments here. Sorry. You want to do that? Go to BC. I don't know.
BCing ya.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to, we're running out of time. So
Yes.
let's just get to Fat Trudeau. We'll save the Melanie Joly stuff maybe for tomorrow. Doug Ford. Says Ontario will maintain its ban on American booze until tariffs are lifted or a trade deal is reached. Well, if Doug Ford would shut his big yap about the Americans, maybe that'll happen sooner rather than later, but he just won't shut up.
Yep.
Anyway, let's listen to Doug Ford on the topic of liquor freedom.
What's the plan for the ban on American booze?
I apologize, ban on?
American booze.
Well, it's still going to be banned until they cut the tariffs or we make a deal with them. It's not coming on our shelves.
So if
our wine is up over 67%, wine sales for Ontario. So, thank you.
So just to clarify, if tariffs are removed or if there's a deal?
If there's a deal, another USMCA deal, which I don't think is going to happen for the next few months, but you never know with President Trump. He could pull the carpet out from underneath us in a heartbeat like he has before, or they get rid of their tariffs, and then we'll bring the booze back into the LCBO. And if they don't, then they aren't getting any booze on our shelves.
Okay. And just to follow up on that, the Liquor Board in Quebec is saying they're going to have to dump some American alcohol because it's going to expire soon.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans for that? Have you heard anything about possible expiration? Like, are we going to have to dump some alcohol?
Well, I think we still have a few months. That's a good question. Thank you. We still have a few months before anything expires, and we'll take it from there.
Sheila, I'm about to explode here.
If
Doug
you need
Ford,
American booze, just order it from Alberta.
Yeah. Doug Ford and
lots.
his beloved, dearly departed brother, Rob Ford, and no, they were not two peas in a pod.
No.
I think one of the most successful political slogans of our young century was respect for taxpayers. What we see from Doug Ford is constant disrespect. He took $1 billion of U.S. booze off the LCBO shelves, whether it's Kentucky bourbon or California wines, and it was all about creating a photo op. That's right, a $1 billion photo op. Oh, but it gets worse. Where is that booze? It's in warehouses.
Right.
Every
he could
day.
have sold it down. He could have sold it down and then said, and I disagree with not ordering the American alcohol, but he could have sold it down, but now it's stranded asset, dead stock. They're paying to store it somewhere, and then they're going to pour it out.
And Sheila, hear me out on this point. Even if you believed in an embargo, that's it, California, Kentucky, you are states non grata for your alcohol products. Why not do this? You sell off the bought and paid for stock.
It down. Yeah, exactly.
And then when it's gone, baby, and you don't reorder it. I mean, I'm not a Harvard MBA. I can figure that out.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And maybe it's just for spite. I'm a person that is highly motivated by spite, but my spite only costs me something, right? Like if I'm not buying something for spite, or if I'm doing something for spite, or just to show so-and-so what's what, it only comes out of my pocket, right? This is the taxpayers' money that he is literally pouring down the sink is the plan.
Exactly. Well, not you, because you're an Albertan, but me and all my Ontarians, we're the shareholders of this Crown Corporation. And how dare this guy yank this booze, as I said, to do a $1 billion photo op to make him look like he's talking tough. You know, I'll show you, Donald Trump, I'm pulling all this booze that we already
showing the
bought.
taxpayer.
Yeah, and getting charged for storage. This is insane. And also, to your original point, Sheila, he's got to pivot. He has got to stop going on CNN, whose audience fits in an average-sized bungalow, by the way, these days,
Right.
and calling out...
It's the background noise at the airport in the doctor's office. That's
right.
all it is.
Yeah, because even though it's irrelevant, the White House tracks this, and the administration and President Trump doesn't like this, so Doug Ford is making a bad situation even worse. And I would say...
I think the American ambassador actually brought it up in an interview where he said some premiers don't know how to watch their mouths.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but he said some premiers, meaning Smith's fine, but Doug Ford won't shut his big mouth.
And you know what, Sheila? It's easy for Doug Ford to pull California wines and Kentucky bourbons off the shelf, but I wonder if the ingredients for cherry cheesecake were U.S. sourced. Would he put an embargo on that too? I don't think so.
Yeah, let's keep going on to Fat Trudeau's anti-Americanism nonsense. Donors to the Ontario PC Party, do you know that Doug Ford's deranged anti-American Canada is not for sale hats cost the party $300,000? I'm reading this at the Trillium because they're the ones who broke the story, even though the Guardian republished it. I want to give credit where it's due. So the hats cost the Ontario PC Party. This is a lot of campaign funds, or a lot of party funds. It wasn't necessarily for the campaign. $250,000 during the 2025 election campaign. He made a patriotic meme of himself. Well, I don't know. When he first donned a Canada's Not For Sale hat in front of the media at a meeting of the premiers and the Prime Minister in Ottawa last January, shortly before he called the province's 2025 election campaign. He had many photo ops, blah, 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 handed out the hats everywhere. In their public election finance filings, the PC Party of Ontario paid $279, roughly, $1,000 to the company behind the hats, Jack Pine Dynamic Branding. During the campaign period, the party also transferred over 600 toques, bought for $23.19 each before the campaign to the campaign. Then they go on to talk about, you know, how they're proud, like they talk about the company that made them the rest of the way, but I still haven't heard where the hats themselves were made. I imagine they were probably printed.
Why isn't that part of the story? Maybe they are domestically made, like our Make Canada Great Again hats. We don't bring in cheap junk from China. But yeah, why is that detail missing, A, and B, regardless of where they're made, Sheila, this is again a publicity stunt. Where, oh, where did respect for taxpayers go? Where did that Fordism go? It's extinct.
Well, and Olivia, I just put something in the chat for you. Something I noticed when I was at Pearson earlier in the year. And these aren't the PC hats that Doug Ford had, but I saw these on sale at Pearson, and I thought, what a stupid political thing to have on sale at Pearson, right? Like, I want to go to the airport without being bombarded with the anti-American nonsense. And so I saw these, and they were in like the not the duty free, but the, you know, like the shops that are all through the airport, that chain, I forget what it's called. So this is like the Pearson approved stuff, and it says I grabbed them, the not for sale hats, made in China and Haiti, and I thought, well, isn't that interesting? So slave labor both ways, and I thought, well, isn't that interesting? given that there's 100% tariffs on Western Canadian canola, but the communist state of China gets the benefit of printing all of our not for sale this jingoistic nonsense from Doug Ford.
But you know what? The way I read that emblem on that sweatshirt, Sheila, it seems to say to me it's not Canada not for sale, but the Canadian flag not for sale. But isn't this the same Canadian flag that the federal Liberals display in multicolors during the month of June on their websites? You know, so yeah, you know what? It kind of is for sale. We'll bend the knee if you've got the right identity politics.
Yep. There's one more. It's funny because you brought up Michael Corrin at the beginning of the show, and he's somebody who did like a complete 180. I think he's going to be a trans hijabi before his final transformation is done.
Please, I scare easy.
Anyway, these people who change their spots for political gain. Let's talk about Charles Adler, one of the Sun News gang too. Charles Adler, broadcaster from Manitoba, was a conservative, and then he sort of became like a reasonable anti-conservative conservative. You see those guys happening all the time in the United States, and he thought, I should do that too. I'll be the Romney. And so he decided that he was going to be the safe conservative that runs cover for all of the bad liberal ideas. See, like, I'm a conservative and I like this liberal idea, so you should like it too. And so that got him a Senate appointment after he railed against Senate, like the unelected Senate. Like, he made it like his reason for being at some point. Entire monologues on this stuff. Anyways, continuing on his hypocritical streak, Charles Adler, Uncle Chuck, as he used to call himself on the radio, a Liberal Senate appointee who denounced conservative critics as cold-blooded on climate change, jetted home each weekend to Winnipeg for no official reason. Accounts show Senator Charles Adler of Manitoba had called global warming the leading issue of our time, but yesterday, wouldn't you know it, had no comment. He said, no matter how much I read, I never feel I understand enough about the issue of our time, climate change. That's because there's nothing to understand outside of the fact that it's a wealth transfer, Uncle Chuck. Anyways, that was from a 2023 commentary in the Winnipeg Free Press. That was before his appointment to the Senate, but that was like his application paper to the Senate. By the way, he wasn't just accidentally appointed. You had to apply to be considered a Liberal senator, and then there's a panel of Liberal appointees who appoint you then as an independent senator after everybody has been selected by the Liberal Party of Canada. So Mr. I'm Against the Senate actually put his own name forward to be appointed to the Senate, and he got a $184,000 a year appointment to the Senate by Trudeau just a year later. He billed for repeated round trips. And this is a guy who said the Senate is unaccountable. They waste money. They have these outrageous expense accounts. Well, he billed for repeated round trips 13 in 14 weeks. He only missed one weekend to spend weekends at his Winnipeg home. He left on Thursday. Of course, nothing but a long weekend for these guys. He left on Thursday and returned on Monday or Tuesday to take a seat in the Senate. 44,000 kilometers by air. Does that take you to the surface of the moon? I'll have to do the math later. His travel expenses over 13 weeks, $42,000, roughly the salary of an average Canadian.
You know, maybe it is a moon flight. I'll have to check with astronaut Katy Perry, who recently jettisoned Justin Trudeau. But, you know, Sheila, I could react with anger, as you are, and point out hypocrisy, but I'm overcome by another emotion, and it's heartbreak, because back in the day, I loved Charles Adler. I was a frequent guest on his Sun News Network show. Every Friday, I was on his Chorus radio program, which went coast to coast. And by the way, that hour, I understand, was the highest rated hour of radio for his show. And I mean, I even showed up to the airport to pick him up. You know, I genuinely like Charles Adler. And you know what? All I can think of you're in a sunset industry.
Chorus that's at a
mainstream
penny
media.
stock.
Yeah, and you need a parachute, and money talks, and you know what walks. But what I try to do so I don't go crazy, Sheila, and it's not just Charles Adler. There's others. I put myself in a compartment to 13 years ago, and I think of how good it was then, and how different they were then. And that's my happy space. I know that sounds touchy-feely hippie talk, but it's just so heartbreaking for me to see this kind of thing happening right in front of my eyes. I mean, some of his tweets when Trudeau was in office, before he was appointed in the Senate, maybe this was what was motivating the tweets. I agree with my Prime Minister 100%.
Sure. That's a application. That's part of his resume to get into the Senate. And yeah, I mean, when you work for a company that's a penny stock, when you did at Chorus, I mean, I guess the moral of the story is some people will do anything for money. Yeah. Some people will do anything for money. And but however, I am sad that you are living in denial about the kind of person that
I am.
I see it clearly.
I do. You know what? If I get, here's the question. Maybe one day in the future, and this will say everything, I will bump into Charles Adler. Maybe it'll be outside the Senate in Ottawa. And what would be interesting, I would still approach him. I would still shake his hand. You know what, Sheila? I just have a bad feeling that he might just, turn his back and go the other way. I'm not saying he'll do that. I just think I might be looked upon as an undesirable, that he can't be seen in, and that's even more heartbreaking. I'm telling you, it's like, it's like losing a good friend.
No, I think you should be grateful that you know exactly who and what he is. I think you should be glad for that, because you're wasting your emotions on somebody. I think that, given that he would jettison everything he ever said, he's jettisoned himself. He's jettisoned himself for money. You think he wouldn't do it to you? Of course he would.
But Sheila, earlier in the show, you broadcast that you are a spiteful person. And by the way, spiteful. I want to appreciate the honesty. I want to appreciate the honesty. I know you've got some really heavy-duty bows and arrows on the homestead. So should I ever come to Casa Gunn Reid, I'll be on my best behavior.
Just don't cross me. And you know what? The thing is, I'm spiteful and I can be conniving. So I might not get you today, but I'll get you eventually. And sometimes all I have to do is keep my mouth shut and the world will get you. And then you have to live with knowing that I know.
Yeah, I guess it's like those old Midas muffler ads. You can pay me now or pay me later. And when you pay later, usually it's a whole lot more.
Exactly. Let's get to, we've got 2 chats.
Okay.
And then we'll do the Daily Cringe. So P. Schofield 10, he is a regular donor, regular chatter. Gives $5. The unfinished part of the "we can't find enough Canadian workers" sentences for the amount that we are willing to pay. And that's true.
Sad.
Yeah. I think that's also a condition of the economic environment, right? Like employers are in a place where they've got so much overhead that it's tough to make a wage. But that is a condition of the economy, and the Liberals have been economic vandals for approaching 11 years now, and as an Albertan, I can't really do anything about it. I can't change the voting habits of the rest of this country.
I don't get it. What happened to Elbows Up, Sheila?
Elbows Up. It's the dumbest slogan. And I see people with that as bumper stickers, and I was like, God, seriously?
And posters at Walmart, too, don't forget.
Oh, God. So embarrassing. Nathan Buskell give us $10 and says, "Thanks, Rebel, for your real investigative reporting." Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's get to the Daily Cringe. So I talked earlier about the Alberta Next panels, which I think every premier should do. You should be forced to sit down and take the slings and the arrows of the people you represent head on. Give them a chance to tell you what matters to them. But it also, when you get the Looney Tunes, it helps keep you sharp as a knife. Right? And that's why I like watching like Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire take the questions from the crowd, or Charlie Kirk from Turning Point take questions from the crowd. If you are confident in what you know and your viewpoint, you should be able to take a question from anybody. right? But that's what I think. If you have a good grasp of the facts and you think that the arc of truth bends toward conservatism, then take them questions, right? Well, Danielle Smith does that. And the lunatics think that they're going to be the ones that get her. They think, I'm the smartest one. I'm smarter than her. So a little bit of backstory. In Alberta, a few months ago, we decided to get, I mean the government, but also with the support of completely sane parents like me, they've decided to get the smut out of the classrooms. And I was privy to the embargoed copy of what they found in school libraries, and it was hideous. Like, it was a hardcore homosexual erotica. It was like, and in cartoon form, a lot of it, so it was appealing to kids. And if you were a parent that saw this cartoon or graphic novel in your child's hands, you wouldn't pick it up and realize, oh my gosh, it's like revolting stuff. And at the time, I reported on how the media intentionally got it wrong, and the Alberta government had to send a press release saying, correct your reporting. You guys got the same embargoed copy of documents that I did, and it was they intentionally made it wrong. They said stuff like the completely innocuous books would be banned from the classroom because of this, and like just absolute nonsense. So I think it was last night. No, it was the night before. Someone I describe as a weirdo Alberta educator takes to the mic, and why do they all look the same? Why do they all look the same?
Which is to say, they don't look like Sydney Sweeney.
They all look the same. You know that they wear like clunky bangles and like dress over leggings. You just know. But anyways, she gets to the microphone and she tries to say that because of your so-called book ban, I don't have any books in my classroom and we won't have a library. What library from the bowels of hell are you running in that school? But anyways, let's listen to this, because Danielle Smith just gives her, like, again, like the anvil on Wile E. Coyote here.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Today, for the first time in my career, I carried out 400 personally funded books out of my classroom. I'll be teaching without books for the first time in over 20 years due to the UCP's censorship. Our school library is now closed until further notice.
One thing I would invite every one of you to do is to go online and look at the graphic images that we are taking out of elementary schools. I wouldn't be able to, no, I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't be able.
He's right.
I wouldn't be able to hold up an image, because we're broadcasting this, I wouldn't be able to hold up an image without a warning of graphic image of pornographic materials, including detailed sex acts, because it would offend our audience. And if our audience, adult audience, would be offended by that, a 7-year-old shouldn't be watching that. So I'm glad that.
Sheila, let me tell you the crux of the matter here. I'm going to compare apples with apples. If a 7-year-old or even a 17-year-old went into a convenience store and purchased a copy of Playboy magazine, and don't ask me how I know this, but in terms of magazine pornography, Playboy is extremely tame. That shopkeeper would be in a whole hell of a lot of trouble. You can't sell to minors that kind of material. So please riddle me this. Why does that guy get fined or lose his business license, but we can bring this smut into an elementary school library? Please explain.
These people are absolute weirdos. Like, they couldn't show in the press conference these images. They had to like put it on a link on a website and say, like, if you want to go see what we found, go look, because we can't show you because we're live streaming this to YouTube. That's how bad it was. And this teacher thinks that she's gonna really stick it to Danielle Smith because she's banning books. Did she just get up on a microphone and admit in front of thousands of people that she brought 400 smut books into the classroom, and their library from hell in that school was so bad that they had so much smut that they can't open the library now? That's an own goal if I've ever seen one.
Bingo. She shot herself in the foot with that analogy, Sheila, because you're telling me because of the removal of smut, we now have to close a library. There's nothing on the shelves. I mean, there's no Dr. Seuss books. You know, are you kidding me?
Well, if that is the case, then yes, I don't want that library open. If it's full of these books, then yes, thank God. Chain the library closed. Brick up the door. I don't want any of that stuff getting out to the children. Like to say that, oh, because of your removal of hardcore pornography comic books from the school library, we don't have enough books to run the library. My Lord, you've just admitted a huge problem, but she thinks that she's really going to stick it to Danielle Smith. No, that's a self-own right there, if I've ever seen.
Unbelievable. You know, Sheila, how did we ever get here? You know, I remember in high school getting a paperback copy, no images, by the way, of The Happy Hooker by Xavier Hollander. And I was secretly reading it under my textbook. And I had the fear of God in me if I got caught with this thing. We've gone from that to elementary school libraries showing graphic pornography to minors. How did we get here?
Yeah, they think they're entitled to show it to your kids. Like, there's such a bunch of weirdos. And like, I'm so glad that Danielle Smith handles it this way, where she's like, yeah, I'm glad. Like, I'm glad.
Yes.
And you can stand up and say that we're banning books and we're censoring content. And, you know, they spread a big lie that you wouldn't even be able to have medical textbooks. And they're like, no, showing graphic sex acts. Erotica to kids is the problem. And if you want to get up and argue for that, great. Now, but I'm going to need your name and I want to look at your hard drive.
Yeah. And you know what? In that sense, Danielle Smith is channeling the CEO of American Eagle, who earlier this month, when the lefties lost their marbles of the Sydney Sweeney campaign, she has good genes, genes with a J instead of a G. Well, obviously this was channeling Nazi eugenics. This is white supremacy. And what did he do? He didn't bend the knee. He made a statement that this is a wonderful campaign. Sydney Sweeney is a beautiful model, and the campaign shall go on. Yeah, and what does he know, folks? Because you know what? In 3 days, American Eagle stock was up 20%. I wish I had known. I would have invested. I would have made out like a gangster. I guess what I'm saying, Sheila, whether you are a company CEO or you are a premier or a governor, don't bend the knee to the lunatic fringe. There is way, way more people that support common decency than the woke lunatic fringe out there, and we've seen 2 examples of that. Premier Smith wasn't booed off the stage; he got a standing ovation, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, people were applauded for her remarks. Yeah, just take American Eagle, who didn't bow and just were like completely unwoke, and then Cracker Barrel, who decided to go woke and then like instantly change back, like not learning the Bud Light lesson whatsoever, or the Jaguar lesson whatsoever. But at least they course corrected within a week. Like, know your audience, guys.
You know, I don't know what the recovery has been in the last 2 years, but Sheila, you remember Anheuser-Busch, the company that brews Bud Light, a stock loss of $27 billion US. And then the jabronis at Cracker Barrel say, let's get Uncle Herschel off the logo. Let's go with wokeism. It's kind of like those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it.
Not only that, I think the people making these decisions have never walked through a Cracker Barrel dining room.
Maybe.
And how to look at the people who work there. Everything is an abstract to them. And so since they've never actually consumed their own product, they don't realize who their consumers are. They live in a bubble. They don't even consume their own product. So how would they know anything about the people who do? I think we need to wrap up the show because we're 20 minutes over, and I think we're all caught up in the chats.
Well, folks, thank you for tuning in. A special thank you to those of you who gave us a donation. It's how we keep these bright lights on here in the studio. We don't receive Mark Carney's mainstream media trained seal funding, nor would we accept it if offered, just in case hell froze over. I will be back here with the Rebel News panel discussion tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. By the way, Sheila, are you the co-host tomorrow, or are you taking...
no idea. No,
okay,
I have no idea. I never know. I just, they tell me where to be, and I show up.
So there you have it, folks. Kind of like in pro sports when there is a trade, a player to be named later. Yeah. So a Rebel News personality to be named later. So please tune in tomorrow. I guess it's the last Friday unofficially of summer. I don't know about you, Sheila, the Labor Day weekend, always melancholy for me because it's that day after Labor Day where the world restarts, although technically summer doesn't end until September 21st. But in any event, we'd love to spend at least 1 hour of Friday with you. In the meantime, folks, as always, stay safe and stay sane.